This is a tutorial that shows how to use the p5play library for p5.js, which is a library for making games with p5. And this demo is going to be how you can make a game that sort of relies on you dragging and dropping things around in the game. And the kind of classic thing, and something that several of my students are trying to do, I think, is something similar to like a dress-up game or a paper doll game where you put items onto another item. So I've got a few images here. Let's take a look at them. In my assets folder, I've got a dress with a transparent background, a jacket with a transparent background, and I have this big image that's a JPEG that is kind of basically just missing the jacket and the dress. I kind of stole those from that image. So let's get rid of that and just try and look at what's here so far. There's a preload function, and I load the three images into three variables. And just thinking ahead, I've got a jacket variable and a dress variable that I'm going to use to store sprites for those two things. So I made the canvas the same size as the background image, which is called original here. And I think all I should have to do is display that image as the background. So here's the name of the variable and where I want to put it. So there we go. I've got the background in place. Now I'm going to put the jacket there, but it's going to be not just an image, but a sprite. So I'm going to say the jacket is a new sprite, sprite, and I'm going to associate the image that I loaded above with that sprite. It is. It's already on the screen. Let's give it a default location, which I guess is maybe the middle of the screen. But I think I want to position in a certain place. So I'm going to do jacket position equals. And you'd think, well, how does this work? Is it a number? It's not a number. It's an X and a Y. So we have a convenient thing in P5 or in P5 that we can use called a vector. And that's basic. It sounds scary, but it's basically just a way to store and access two numbers at the same time for us. So an X and Y position, like a coordinate, works with a vector. So I will create a vector, and it's just going to be two numbers, X and Y. And I think for the jacket, 900 and 500 works well. So I'll just save again, and I might have to scroll over. I'll move this a bit for now. So now I can see there's the jacket where it belongs. And I'll stick with that for now and not deal with the dress. Let's try and make this thing draggable, since that's kind of the main goal here. So the first thing to do is, this is actually kind of from the, we're going to do jacket. This is kind of from the p5play learn website. It's got an example there. So each sprite has its own mouse property, and we can call a dragging method on it. So if jacket.mouse.dragging is true, then we want to do something. And I think right now I'll just do a console log and say dragging the jacket. Let's see what this looks like. So if I hold down the mouse and move it, you can see it's spitting out a ton of dragging the jackets, and when I let go, it stops. It's not actually moving the jacket, but it does know that I'm trying to drag it. So instead of doing this, let's actually move the jacket. And that should just be jacket.move towards. And this is a function that just takes three arguments. It's where you want to move it to. So if, for example, I said 0, 0, and that's the X and Y, and then the last argument is going to be 1, which means it's going to move it right there. If I put less than 1 there, it'll move slower. So you can get a sense that what we're going to do is move it with the mouse. Instead of moving it to this point, we'll move it with the mouse. And if I put a number like 0.1 or 0.5 or something, it'll follow the mouse, like it'll track the mouse really slowly. So if I start wiggling around, it will kind of not really do those wiggles. It'll average out. So let's see what this looks like. I'll save. When I start dragging it, it zips over there. So instead of making it zip over there, let's have it follow the mouse cursor. So this is mouse X and mouse Y, and then that last parameter, which is kind of how quickly it will track the mouse. So let's see. There we go. It's working. Now that's it's kind of flying around. Let me reload. Sort of like can throw it. And I think, if we add a drag to that jacket, it'll probably slow it down. So I'll say its drag is 10. And let's try now. I can throw it, and it kind of throws a little bit, which is sort of nice. It's nice that we have that, but it's not going to go out of control. So this is working, dragging it and letting it go. In the example, there is a little bit more detail to this, which is to add the mouse X of the jacket and the mouse Y. And as far as I can tell, it doesn't really make that much of a difference in this case, but it's essentially this value, jacket.mouse.x, is the mouse location in relation to, I think, the center of the sprite. So it's trying to accommodate for the fact that you might be dragging it from the corner. You can see when I click from the corner, it zips to the middle of the dress. So that's kind of convenient. Well, actually, I didn't even save. So let's try that again. Okay, so now it doesn't do that jumping. So before I had that extra addition in there, it would jump the cursor, it would jump to wherever the cursor is, right to the center, but this allows it to actually drag without having that little weird jitter. So let's stick with that. Okay, what else do I need to do? Well, the main thing is I need to make sure, I can put it here, but what I really want to do is say when it lands there, I want to acknowledge that she's wearing the jacket. And I'd like also, if I get close, I want the jacket to sort of snap into place. So let's see if we can make that happen. This is totally separate. So this is like handle the dragging, and then totally separate from that, we're going to snap into position. So if, and for this, we're going to use a function from P5 called dist. And this function takes an X and Y and another X and Y. And it tells you the difference in pixels between those two positions. So what I really want to know is like the jacket's X and Y. What's the difference between that position and kind of the heart of this doll, right? So I want I want to know how far this point is from this point. And whatever those numbers are, I'm going to say if it's less than a certain amount, then we can say that she's wearing the jacket. That's just going to get logged to the console. So what numbers do we put in here? Well, I think what I can do is make a variable that will actually contain that, and I'll call it doll center, and I'll set it up right here in the setup function. I'll say doll center equals, and again, I'm going to create a vector. And I think what I found is that the center was like around 133 and 420. So that's like here. If you ever want to check this, try and find these locations, one easy thing to do is just draw a little rectangle at that point, and you'll see, oh, okay, it's matching up. So if I drew a rectangle at this position, we'd see that it's right there in the center of the doll. So I'm going to use that vector now, and it's really, the way that we access vectors is just like this, the vector dot x and vector dot y. So doll center dot x and doll center dot y. So let's see. If I drag it, I don't get any message on the bottom because I got rid of that other console log, but if I drag it close enough to the center of the doll, I should, yeah, there it is. So she's wearing the jacket. So it spits out that message constantly if I'm in that zone. So instead of doing that, again, this is just for debugging. So instead of doing that, what I want to do is make it snap to that position. So I think what I can do is just set the jacket's position to equal the doll's position. That should do it. So let's drag it over there and snap. It snaps into place. So that's kind of nice. If I drag it off and drag it back, it snaps in. That's a little off. I could fix that, but right now I'm not going to worry about it. Well, actually, you know what? I will worry about it. So if it's a little bit off, I could change where the doll's center is, but maybe I've got that right. And I think probably what would happen is as I start putting other things on here, I'd want to basically be able to account for the difference in position and size, right? Even if I put this on, maybe the size is different. So it'll snap on a little bit off from the body. And so what I could do is say, instead of just snapping right to the center of the doll, I could create a new vector here and use the doll center dot x and doll center dot y, but adjust them a little bit. So maybe what it looks like it needs to go to the left a little bit. So I'll do minus 10. So let's try this again, see if it snaps in a better way. It looks better. So that's how I could account for that, just kind of tweak it a little bit. Okay, what else do I need to do? I think it would be nice if I knew, if there was like some way to tell which outfit she's wearing. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just do some like debugging right on the screen. So I'll add some text, and maybe what I'll do is I'll keep a variable and say that there's a variable is where is wearing the jacket. So let's define that way at the top. Is wearing the jacket starts out as false. I'll also think ahead and do like an is wearing the dress, because maybe I'll get to the dress too. So yeah, I just want to say like uh, jacket question mark, and I will tack on is wearing the jacket. And that I'm going to put at like 10 pixels over and 10 pixels down from the top corner of the screen. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. Jacket false. And then when I drag it on, boom, it's true. So let's okay, go a little bit further down. I think what I would like to do though is, like even if I put it on there, it turns to true. If I take it off, it's still true. So I also need an else here. So I guess the way that would work is if it's not close to the doll, then instead of snapping, it should just do one thing, which is say is wearing the jacket equals false. So let's see if that works. Still false. Now it's true. Drag it off, and now it's false again. So seems to work. Okay, I mean that's it really. Like this is really kind of where we need to be, but I'm gonna also add another sprite in here, which is the dress. So this should be easy to do. Here is dress now, and it's dress image. And where's the location? I think I figured this out as 450 and 570. So there's the dress. And I should be able to do the same thing I did here for dragging. I will just change this to dress. And I'll also change this to dress. Let's see. Now I can drag this as well. And it's not snapping because I haven't done that yet. I'm just handling the dragging. So let's go down to the part where I handle the snapping, and I'll do the same thing. I'll copy this and do a dress version of it. And this is a totally separate section, which is like output the outfit status. And just thinking ahead, I probably want one a little bit lower on the screen. That is the dress, and is wearing the dress will have to be another variable. Is that up top? Yeah, so it starts out as false. So I'll do the same thing here for snapping into position. It will be checking the dress's X and Y against the doll's center, and it will make the dress position equal the doll center. We'll have to see if it needs this little adjustment in the X orientation or not. And then, of course, we're going to say that is wearing the dress is true, and the same thing here. It's going to be false if we're not snapping. So I'll save, and when I drop it, it says it's true. Jacket's false. It's a little bit off, so maybe I'll take advantage of the fact that I've got this X and Y, and I think it needs to go down a little bit. Let's try it again. Perfect. So a neat thing about the fact that we're using p5play is that it has physics, so I can actually like bump it out of the way. Now the spinning is not desirable, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I could just say jacket dot rotation, what is it called? rotation lock equals true. But instead of doing that for each one of these, what I can do is say that all of the sprites dot rotation lock equals true. And while I'm at it, I don't need to set the drag for each of these sprites either. I could just say all of the sprites dot drag is equal to 10. So let's get rid of this redundancy here. So I'll put the dress on. Looks like it works up there, and then I'll bump it out of the way, and now the jacket is true and the dress is false. Let's try that again because it looked like it bumped it pretty hard. Well, it works, and then I guess I can do it pretty hard. So one thing you notice is that it moves the dress whether I'm touching it or not, and that's just because of the way that it's cropped. There are ways to handle that. I'm not going to bother with that right now. That's not the idea of this game. One thing I could do if I didn't want them to interact with each other, I think I could just make them be on different layers. Let's see if that works. So layer equals 1 for the jacket, and layer equals 2 for the dress. Nope, that doesn't work. So I'm going to leave this off. I'm not going to bother worrying about that, but that's something that you could consider if that was important. If you did make that work, then you might have a situation where the dress is on and the jacket's on. But, I think that's actually how this paper doll thing is supposed to work. You're supposed to be able to put different items of clothes on. You put the underwear on first, and then the dress, and then the jacket. So that's a slightly different game, but in this one, I'm just sort of saying that you are only wearing one or the other. So hopefully that all makes sense, and it's not a very long program. Again, just to give the overview, I'm loading all the images for the sprites and the background, and then I'm just creating 2 sprites, one for the jacket and one for the dress. They have a rotation lock on so that they don't spin all over the place, and then drag keeps them from flying off the screen. And then down here I do a couple things. One is to handle the dragging part. It's the same for both sprites, but I'm basically saying if someone's dragging on this sprite, then have it follow the cursor, and accommodating a little bit for where the cursor is grabbing the sprite, right? It's not always going to be grabbing in the center, so that's what this little adjustment here is for. And then I do the same thing for the dress. Then for each of them, I check to see if it's close enough to the center of the doll, and if it is, then it should do a couple things. One is to snap into place, and the other is to set this Boolean variable to true. And otherwise, if I'm out here, it's going to set that variable to false. I do the same thing for the dress, and then I'm just outputting here which thing is on. So now we can kind of start thinking about the mechanics of this if we wanted to. Are you supposed to wear multiple items, or is it a certain combination of items that matters? We'd have all the information we need to be able to make a game like that. So hopefully that helps. Good luck.